Nobody wants to be labeled a toxic boss. We all know how much people hate them and how it can really be a massive obstacle in your leadership career. Every emerging leader watching this channel wants to be a great boss. I know that, and that's exactly why I started this channel, because I want to help you get there. I want to help you develop into a great leader, the fantastic leader that I know you can be. And in this video, you're going to learn a really important part of that whole process, and that is how to avoid being a toxic boss or manager. Now, if you like the sound of what you're going to learn in this video, then hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and let's get started. Being a bad boss or a toxic boss can have many negative repercussions for the company. An article in Forbes mentions that toxic bosses not only drive their employees away, but also drive customers and clients away. Adding to that, an article in Inc.com says that 60% of employees plan to leave their company because of a bad boss. So whether it's employee retention, job satisfaction, client satisfaction, or a drop in your reputation, being a toxic boss or a toxic leader is never a good idea. And if you have ever had a toxic boss yourself, let me know about it in the comments below. So here are 3 specific things that you need to do if you want to avoid being a toxic boss. Number 1, get feedback from your team. Feedback is critical to finding out how you are performing as a leader. It's really the only way you can actually get an insight into your leadership skills, into how effective you are as a leader. And the best people to ask about this is people in your team, right? People you spend every single day with. So the people in your team, it's those people specifically that you want to get feedback from. You might think as a leader that you are doing a fantastic job, when in reality, the people in your team think that you're micromanaging them. Or maybe they think that you're playing favorites because you give the good assignments to just one person every time. So especially when you are a new leader, when you're a new manager, it's absolutely essential that you get feedback about how you are performing. Otherwise, you can easily become a toxic manager or a toxic leader without even knowing it. But getting feedback from people in your team can be challenging. I recognize that. Not everyone will open up to you. Not everyone will give you honest feedback. Some people might be worried about being fired. Some people might be worried that you're going to give them a hard time if they give you negative feedback. So getting feedback from your team can be a bit challenging, especially when you're a leader. But these 3 steps will definitely help you out. In order to get honest feedback from people in your team, you need to establish a feedback culture within your team. This is so people get used to giving you feedback and also receiving feedback as well. Number 2, you need to ask for it constantly. This means during meetings, during performance reviews, just in general day-to-day interactions you have with your coworkers. And it's also important that you request examples so you can have a reference point for your feedback or for the feedback that you receive, and you can fully understand it. So examples are really, really helpful in giving you a reference point. Now, I do talk more about getting honest feedback from your team in a podcast episode that I recorded a while back. I'll put that in the description below if you want to take a listen and check it out. Number 2, you need to create psychological safety in your team. This is something that all leaders should work to create, because it really helps every member of your team feel safe, feel that they can raise their concerns, feel they can share ideas freely and openly. The Center for Creative Leadership defines psychological safety as the belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. So in the context of a toxic boss, because that's what we're talking about in this video, it means that your team will feel comfortable coming to you with problems because they won't fear that they're going to be fired, or they feel that it's safe speaking up in meetings because no matter what they say, they're not going to be ridiculed, or they feel safe asking questions because they feel they won't be labeled as stupid. These are all examples of a workplace or a team that practices psychological safety, and it's really important that you as a leader, as an emerging leader, start to understand what psychological safety is, and you begin to implement it and create the atmosphere in your team of a safe environment. It's not difficult to create a workplace like this. There are 3 things that you need to do. First, you need to start communicating this to your team, telling everyone that your team, your meeting, every conversation you have, it is a safe environment. They can say whatever is on their mind. They won't be fired and they won't be ridiculed. You also need to encourage people to share their ideas, to share their opinions, and also to disagree as well. Encourage people to do this. Let them know that it's okay. Let them know that you want them to do these things. And also thank people when they do these things, when they share their ideas or their opinions or disagree. Thank them. Thank them. Tell them that you appreciate their input. You appreciate them taking the jump to really raise those concerns or to give you their opinion. And over time, your team will begin to understand that these things are allowed, and in fact, they're actually encouraged. They'll feel safe and comfortable opening up to you, and as a result, they'll think of you as a great leader, not a toxic one. The third thing you can do to avoid being a toxic boss is to build your emotional intelligence. Most leaders who are toxic have low emotional intelligence. And when you have low emotional intelligence, it prevents you from seeing how your words, how your actions, and how your behavior impacts other people, either positively or negatively. For example, when you give all the high-level projects to one person in your team because you feel they're a safe choice, you don't see how this impacts every other person in that team. You don't see them feeling frustrated or envious or undervalued. Your low emotional intelligence prevents you from seeing the negative repercussions that your actions have on the other people in your team. Or when you have input in every single task that your team complete because you just want to see the job done properly, you don't see how this impacts them. You don't see that it makes them feel you don't trust them or that you think they're not doing a good enough job. These are only 2 examples of how a manager or a leader could be a toxic boss, but there are many, many more examples, and I'm sure you have some in your mind as well. But if you are in tune with your emotional intelligence, if you understand how your words or your behavior or your actions impact other people, if you're aware of all of this, then you are likely to avoid being a toxic boss. To build your emotional intelligence, you need to think about the repercussions your words, your behavior, and your actions are going to have on other people. You need to get feedback from people in your team about these things. So again, we're looping back to the first point we talked about in this video, feedback. You need to become more self-aware about your own emotions so you can understand them and so you can control them better. And a really, really important part of avoiding being a toxic boss is showing empathy. Leaders who show empathy generally have a very high level of emotional intelligence. It is not difficult to do at all. In fact, I share 3 ways you can show empathy in the workplace in this video right here. Now, if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future to help you as an emerging leader. And thank you so much for the time you have spent watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.